morning, traders. I'm Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Friday, August 22nd. We close out the week today as investors await commentary from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. This follows a downbeat day on Wall Street yesterday. All three major indices closed in the red, making that the fifth losing session in a row for the S&P 500. The S&P 500 shed 25 points or 0.4%. The Dow dropped 152 points or 0.34%. The Nasdaq ended off by 72 points or 0.34%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes. Good morning, Emily. Yeah, listen, I'm watching the S&Ps this morning. We're definitely seeing some positive activity. I mean, the S&Ps are up 0.28%. That's kind of nice. That's almost three tenths of 1%. That's what we'd like to see. Going into today, and realistically, it's all about the Jerome Powell today. That's really the key aspect here. He's going to be speaking today. He's got that keynote speech that he's doing at the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium, and that's going to be at 10 a.m. I think the market is overhyping his speech. Like, he's going to change his tune and say that he is now on a rate cutting cycle. No, he's going to stick to the data. He's going to continue to say that he's data dependent. He may indicate that there is a possibility for a September rate cut, but they're still going to be very data dependent. They're not going to be changing that. He may talk about how they may change some of their framework in terms of inflation, but they said they would do that every 5 years, so that's on the schedule. That could be on the schedule as well. But his speech is really the key event today. And then, other things going on. It's like, the Ukraine-Russia situation. Listen, that those peace talks, the end of hostilities. Listen, the talks seem to be stalling. The EU, they're pushing for lower tariffs on autos, aiming to reduce U.S. tariffs on European automobiles from 27.5% down to 15%. We'll see if anything like that can happen. And then, you got earnings that are still in play. ROST stores and Zoom Communications, they're trading higher after earnings releases. INTU Workday and BJ Wholesale, they're all trading lower. Next week, we got earnings from PDD, Paul David, NVDA, Dell, and others, and a couple semiconductor firms as well. So next week's still a good week for earnings. Then we're turning our attention over to Europe, and we're checking the action overseas. And I got to tell you something. I'm looking at the DAX, and the DAX is trading higher this morning. Oh no, the DAX just turned lower. It's now down 6 points, down 0.03%. The issue here with the DAX is that their economic data showed that their economy shrank by 0.3% quarter on quarter between April and June, which what was lower than the estimate of 0.1%. So that's not good. And the FTSE's still managing to eke out a gain. It's up 0.07%. The CAC is up 10 points or 0.13%. The CAC. What part of the EU deal is that they're also looking for them to lower tariffs on wine and spirits, and that kind of helps French wine stocks. So that's kind of a positive over there. But you look over in Asia, and Asia was, for the most part in the green. There's still like some positive sentiment going on over there. The Nikkei was flat to higher. It was up 0.05%. In Japan, the core inflation rate for July came in at 3.1% year over year, which is above the market expectations of 3.0%. That's not good. But Hong Kong rose 0.93%. They had strong support coming from domestic chip stocks. Because China is accelerating, towards self-sufficiency in terms of semiconductors. And then you look at the Chinese market and the Shanghai Composite, it was up 1.45%. The move was driven, not only by the semiconductor stocks, but also by, fund rotations, because, In recent weeks, you've seen a lot of money outflows coming out of bonds and into equities. So that's really helping Chinese equities. So, the Shanghai Composite, up 1.45%. Nice, nice, nice. Then we're taking a look at oil this morning. And oil remains a key play, and it's still trading higher. You got WTI trading at $63.66, and you got Brent trading at $67.73. The peace talks, between Russia and Ukraine, they appear to be falling down. So that could lead to sanctions on Russian oil, which is helping to push oil prices higher. That's what we're seeing this morning, Emily.
Bill, as you mentioned, the main focus here is the Fed today. We're awaiting commentary from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The markets are certainly anticipating that. We will get to the day's economic events in a moment, but as you told us, earnings action is indeed still in play. So let's dive in there. Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings?
Well, listen, we got to start off with Workday, ticker WDAY. They beat by 9 cents, and they did it on higher revenue. Stock's down 4.43% this morning. Intuit, INTU, India Nancy Tom, Uncle, they beat by 9 cents as well. They also did it on higher revenue. Stock's down 6.06% this morning. You're seeing a little weakness here. That's not really good. But let's not go crazy. Let's not think that there's something more than is happening here. I mean, we do have a couple of good earnings coming out next week, and now, as I mentioned earlier. But on Monday morning, you got PDD Holdings. EPS is $1.91. Expect to move is 7.85%. Stock's already rallying. PDD's already rallying. So we'll have to see. But I think PDD, Paul David, is an interesting play to watch today in terms of earnings, Emily.
And Bill, one of the earnings that you mentioned in your opening there was BJ's Wholesale. That was your pick of the day yesterday. We will check in with you on that by the end of the show and see what happened with that one. But plenty to get to before that, including the day's economic events. We both pointed to the anticipation of commentary from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. But give us a rundown of everything we should be watching when it comes to the day's economic events.
Listen, at 1 p.m. you get the Baker Hughes rig count. But at 9 a.m. we're going to hear from Boston Fed Bank President Susan Collins. And then at 10 a.m., that's the keynote speech. That's when Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell will be speaking at the Jackson Hole Symposium. Now, he's going to be giving this speech. We don't, they really haven't come out with any commentary in terms of what his speech is going to be saying. But, I think he's going to really, provide important signals on managing the Fed's dual mandate process of managing inflation and providing employment support. You look at the CME Fed Watch tool, and a couple of weeks ago it was 100% for a 25% basis point cut in interest rates. It's now down to like 75%, so that's pulled back. Inflation data continues to be strong. We get inflation data and get another inflation reading coming out next Friday, but that's for July. And I think the August inflation data will be more keyed in on, because we all know that inflation is starting to spike upwards. So you got to be cautious here. But Powell's speech, that's the key economic event of the day. That's the one the market's going to be paying attention to. I think he's going to come out and he's going to say that we are still data dependent, and he may kind of allude to a possible rate cut a possibility of a rate cut in the September meeting in an effort to make sure that they're supporting the employment. But we'll have to wait and see. But that's what I have for you in terms of an economic update today, Emily.
Bill, markets are paying attention to that speech from Powell, and you're paying attention to it as well, and you're using your NewsWare and your economic alerts and your Fed alerts to follow that information and grab it as it comes out. You will not be trailing behind news articles because you have a professional newswire. You're seeing that data as it comes in. You're also watching things today along with that earnings action, things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls. You're looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I'm looking at my Dow stocks. Listen, I got 25 Dow stocks higher. And then I have 4 lower and 1 unchanged. And it looks like a pretty good start to the day. I got to tell you, that this is what I would like to see every day. And then we're looking at our FANG stocks, and I'm seeing green across the board, so that's positive. Now I'm looking at the news behind the tape, and I'm looking at Amazon Anthropic, which is Amazon's a big backer of. They're in talks to raise up to $10 billion, significantly above the previously reported $5 billion. And why? Because the demand is there. The demand is there. Now, Meta Platforms, ticker META, they signed a 6-year cloud services agreement with Google. Interesting. Netflix, NFLX, they're said to be in talks with Major League Baseball to stream Home Run Derby. That's nice. And Tesla, there's news in the tape that Tesla is raising the price of its most expensive Cybertruck pickup truck model by $15,000 here in the U.S. Interesting. Then we're talking Dow Jones 30 stocks, and we got to start off with NVDA, which is one of the Dow stocks that's actually traded lower this morning. It's down by 1%. China is reportedly, NVIDIA is reportedly halting production of the H20 chip. That's the chip that they sell to China. Mainly due to the Beijing directive to stop buying AI chips. They want, people to buy their own homegrown chips, and they don't want them to be buying, doing a deal with NVIDIA. So there's some security concerns they have. It's not security concerns. They want to be able to build these chips in house and in their own country. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think that is going to definitely cause some weakness in NVIDIA today. Then you got Honeywell. They unveiled a strategic board of directors to lead that new division that they're spinning off, Solstice Advanced Materials. In terms of merger news, International Paper IP reported halts of their IP. They're selling off a division. They're selling off a division for $1.5 billion. It looks like. Then we got some guidance news. We got Zoom Communications. They raised their full year 2025 EPS to $5.81 to $5.84. Street estimate was 5.61. That's a nice uptick. Shareholders meetings today. Hey, Foot Locker, FT, Frank Tom. Foot Locker's having a shareholders meeting today, but it starts at 4 p.m. or 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central or 4 p.m. Eastern. So we'll keep an eye on that. In terms of buyback news, Fortnite, FTNT, Frank Tom, Nancy Tom, they authorize a $1 billion increase to their share repurchasing agreement. And that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day, but what do you have for us to close out this week?
I got to go with JD.com, ticker JD, John David. I mean, it's a sector play. And the reason why, PDD is releasing earnings Monday morning. If you look at PDD, I mean, that stock is rallying. You're seeing a nice, strong rally in the stock. It's already up 3.71%. JD could kind of benefit from, that positive action. So I'm expecting to see some positive action in JD.com today, mainly due to the euphoria surrounding PDD. And plus, you got a lot of money that's coming in off of the sidelines going into Chinese equities right now. So that's another catalyst. Then you look at yesterday's call volume in JD.com, 32,498, call it 32.5, against 14,133. I mean, that's more than 2 to 1. And then you got open interest of 875K to 482K. That's very positive. And the major brokers, listen, they did lower price targets back in May, but they're still very positive. They're still, got good, strong ratings on it. So I do like JD.com. I want to get in, I want to get in, let's say say 31.20, 31.25, somewhere around there. That's kind of like what I'm looking at, but I think we're going to see some gains in JD.com today, ticker JD. So that's my pick of the day today, Emily.
JD.com, it is on a sector play, as you mentioned, PDD, their earnings. So not a traditional earnings play, but ahead of that earnings report, seeing if we can get some momentum in JD.com. We will follow that along with you today. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day before we sign off. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
There's stories out there saying Walmart sent a warning to the markets. They just said that they're going to be raising rates on certain foods and groceries because of the tariffs. Shouldn't surprise anyone. Roblox jumps 2%. After getting an upgrade. That's interesting. That won't hold. Chili's eat all this Apple Tom. Chili's is paying fat bonuses to staff after record-setting sales. That's Brinker International. Parker Hannifin, ticker PH, Paul Henry, increases share repurchase and authorization to 20 million. ROST stores, ticker ROST, they reported same-store sales in Q2 up 2%. Trump to tap Airbnb's co-founder, Joe Gabita, as first government chief design officer. Interesting. Trump's going to be speaking today at noon. He's going to be talking about the D.C. police and what he's doing out there. I'm sure he'll comment on Powell as well. DOJ official urges Powell to remove Governor Lisa Cook. He's not going to do that. That's just part of the politics. U.S. announces Gemini, Google's Gemini for governmental contract. Interesting. It's good. Alibaba took her BA plans to spin off their autonomous driving business. NVO, Norvo noticed this. They're going to be pausing hiring in some areas due to some challenges in the obesity drug market. Starbucks expects non-binding bids from China business within 2 weeks. Boeing's defense workers are holding up for a better deal, which is holding the fighter jet production, but all the other plane production is still going forward. That's what I have for you this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we dive into trading on this Friday, let's take a quick look at that pick from yesterday, which was BJ's Wholesale. As we mentioned earlier, they did report earnings. They reported a Q2 EPS of $1.14. That was 4 cents better than the analyst estimate of $1.10. Revenue for the quarter came in at $5.38 billion, and that was below the consensus estimate of $5.49 billion. In terms of guidance, the company sees a full year 2026 EPS of $4.20 to $4.35. That's versus the consensus of $4.31. So sort of in the middle there. They did say that their Q2 membership fee income increased by 9% year over year to $123.3 million. And the member count grew to a record 8 million members. In terms of a report, Bill, not bad. The stock's down a little bit this morning. You were looking at this one yesterday. How did your call work out?
Yeah, it was a flat trade, but it was all about the entry points, and I knew that. Listen, I was thinking anywhere between 105 and 106.50, and I said 106. I should have just stuck to the 105 because, listen, the stock opened up at 105.96, below my 106, stated point. Then it fell down to 105.01, and then then it rallied back and it closed up at 106.16. So, it was a flat trade because, it opened up lower than my entry point. And then it closed higher than it, but it was just a flat trade. It wasn't a good one. And I never really liked, and I was cautious on that option volume yesterday because that was indicative of something that there wasn't a whole lot of conviction on. So it looked better than the other stocks that were coming out, but because it was the only one that hit all the data points. So yeah, I felt that there was going to be a positive move. There just wasn't 1%, but we didn't lose money, so it was a flat trade. So let's gear up and go for another one today, Emily.
Bill, you were cautious on that one yesterday. Like you said, you didn't lose money, a flat trade there, and the market was down yesterday. So we'll take flat, and we will check in with you on Monday about today's JD.com pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here Monday and each weekday morning next week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.